Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
Down to wear a cravat and a velvet smoking jacket, always buttoned. And he could tell the story. What did I do? Mr. Peña. And he always called me Mr. Peña. Mr. Peña, what did I do to deserve 7 wives lost? And then he wouldn't laugh. And then he could form a little tear right here. And so I'd look down because I'd start laughing. And then the butler, and when his 8th wife was around, Costa, Mr. Peña's heard this story. Mr. Peña, how many times? I don't recall hearing it, Mrs. Razzos. I really don't, which was a fucking lie. And so he said, and then Costa would say that he wasn't supposed to drink or smoke. And when we'd go out, and he'd come back, I'd take him back to his apartment in Manhattan, and he'd smell of cigars and booze. And his 8th wife said that was better than smelling of women. Okay? And so he'd say, I guess I sat too close to Mr. Peña at dinner because I smoked a lot of cigars in those days, and I certainly drank like a fucking fish for sure. And Le Grand Oui, which was his favorite restaurant, which is right across the street from Olympic Towers, and which is still there. And we'd go there, and they always kept the table empty. When you walked in the old days, the table to the right there was the Onassis table. And sometimes there'd be nobody there. But I still eat there. Hugh Carey called me years after Costa died and says, Mr. Chairman, I hear that you're going to be in the tri-state area, which is New York. He said, my wife, he married a billionaire Greek property gal. And he says, on my ticket, he says, why don't we meet you for New Year's Eve at Le Grand Oui? And I said, well, I doubt if they will keep the table open. I mean, I called already, made reservations in your name, and the table's open for us. And so originally, his billionaire wife was supposed to pick up the tab, but they didn't even give us a tab. They fucking sent it to an Onassis group, and then I got a phone call about 3 weeks later from the controller. Mr. Peña, you haven't been with us in several years. We're happy to pay. All you have to tell me is that Costa Grazia said it was okay. Well, he's been dead already. I said, well, if that's what you need to put down, then put it down. But 7 wives.
What a coinky-dinky, huh? What a coincidence.
Yeah.
7 wives lost at sea.
At sea.
Was it the Mediterranean Sea?
All over. And the funny thing about it is when they were fighting to see who was going to be in charge of Christine Onassis' trust, and her stepfather went to court, and they made Mr. Grazos the trustee of the trust, and which had
that was to protect the daughter, wasn't it?
Correct. But then the daughter got to be 18, and she fought it, and she lost. But then she got to be 21, and she went to court and fought it, and she got her own trustee, and she made herself trustee for a while, and she went through money like shit through a goose, and her stepfather. And she fell out, fortunately. Her stepfather and her, she fell out. And so, kind of not Madonna. Who's the one that, of the girls that her father controlled her? You had a big fight about the
Britney Spears.
Yeah.
One of those,
yeah. So what's the scam?
Okay, so this is a business case study, if you like. This is for a assisted living business in Australia. It's in Melbourne, Australia, Dan. Established in Melbourne since 2009. It's currently being run by an elderly couple who are in their 70s, and one of them is very ill, which we think is the wife. Total revenue is 2.4 million in the 2023 year, with total expenses at 1.6 million. So it had a total net income of 800K. It's got 45 beds or 45 customers under contract, and 90% of their revenue is paid by the government. And 10% is private. The money paid by the government, they're paid every 5 days. So
5 days?
5 days, that's
very speedy.
That's highly unusual.
Yeah. But I think it's also because they do a lot of disabled people, right? So the government knows that they're going to be there for a while, so that's why they pay it. But I'm not sure on that. I'd have to find out. It's all the beds are located within 100 kilometres of the Melbourne city, so they're in the Melbourne city centre. It's in people's houses. So 70% of the income comes in within a week through government pay. It's probably a little bit higher than that. Overheads are minimum. All employees are working from home, so they've only got I think it was 3 employees. It's down further. Yeah, so we've got, there's 2 full-time people. One's a bookkeeper and one is a general manager that look after it, and the rest are all on contract. They're on hourly rates. So and some of those hourly rates range from 3 hours a week through to 10 hours a week or whatever it might be. Okay, so their asking price is 1.6 million. Their total net income is 800,000. We've got no interest or no taxes paid. It's got an EBITDA of 800K. Asking price is 2 times EBITDA. So at the moment we would say yes to the transaction. The deal structure would be 60% would be a commercial loan for 960,000 at 8% rate for 10 years. Amortisation, which gives us a payment of 11,647 a month. 20% rollover equity, which will give us 320,000, and then 20% sellers financing for 320,000 at 6% for 6 years. With first year no pay, and the monthly payments come out to 5,300. That's a monthly payment. We'll need to hire a bookkeeper with a yearly salary of 50,000 because the wife does the books. She works about 25 hours a week doing that. Keeping the owner engaged for 12 months to pass all inspections and outstanding accounting. During that period, we'll assess the general manager whether he's good enough to step up, and if he's not, then we'll put someone in there with the owner to learn the ropes. And we also need the owner in there so we can pass over all the licences, etc., for the business. And we'll keep 6 months operational costs from the seller as a reserve as operating account. Yeah. So the motivation for sellers, they're old, they want to get out. They've been in there long enough, and one of them is not very well. And sellers are getting cash out at 960K once we take out the debts and the liens. The sellers will keep 20% equity in the deal, which will give us no business disruption, keeping all the management as it is. A new owner will also hire the new bookkeeper, as this was managed by the seller directly. So in the Australian market at the moment, Dan, what's happening is that a lot of people are exiting, right? They had a Royal Commission, which the findings got closed out this year. With those findings, a lot of it is around stronger licensing, etc., to make sure that people, or a lot of compliance, I should say, rather than licensing. So whereas before they used to just come and have a walk around and have a chat with you and a cup of tea, there's a lot more to it now. So unless you come from a high compliance background, I come from a high compliance background, it can be very tedious, and as we know, right? And so we're seeing a lot of these things now popping up. So
What
that's
part of Australia?
Melbourne.
in Melbourne. So it's in the city.
Okay.
That means you're going to have a gun with fish in the barrel, right? As you say it, with what's going on, with what happened. You got these senior citizens running the show.
There's just a lot of change, right? And it sort of shows how bad it is in Australia, right? If you've got to have a Royal Commission into anything, especially in Australia, it means that it's broken, right? So, and there's about 22 findings that came out of it. A lot of it was it's got to be funded more highly. There's got to be a lot more rigour around how these facilities are run, because a lot of the old people are getting abused or not looked after properly, etc. And then there's a lot more money going into assisted living, right, to keep people at home. The government would prefer them at home than in the facilities because it's just cheaper for them. So that's why the cash flow is so strong for these assisted living type places, because it keeps them out of the system. So that's pretty much it.
Is this who's selling it?
An older couple.
I'm not a broker.
It is through a broker.
Okay, well the numbers may change.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's more just an example.
okay,
right?
once in a while they don't change, but most often they change.
Right.
But it sounds good on the surface.
Yeah.
Okay, but the devil's always in the detail. But it's certainly worth pursuing.
Do you agree with the Viking bitch said earlier? She said, if the EBITDA is under 5 million, never offer more than 3x. Maybe that just...
Yeah, but she's doing it for a different reason. See, I want to knock out... See, I in a 5-round fight, I only want to fight 1 round or 2 at most. So I want to knock out anybody that's got any strength whatsoever. And it's like when what's his name was saying about make an embarrassingly low offer. You asked about embarrassingly low offers. He said, well, then you counter, and then they counter, and then when they get to the second counter, I walk away.
Right.
Okay. Well, if you get to a second counter, obviously the embarrassingly low offer, unless your offer was $1, now he wants $1,000. But saving that, they're interested. But I mean, too many people have read some fucking book that, you know, you offer a nickel or you ask for 10 million nickels, even if it's only worth 2 nickels. You know, there's been a number of books like that. So, but I would do it case by case. And I just don't have time because I just know. And when I look at your faces, when I say I'd walk away and you all kind of look, because it doesn't take me that long to find these like you. It just doesn't. I mean, when I used to do, you know, calls, 3 out of 10 people I will go to see to buy. 3 out of 10. Now you're probably doing maybe 3 out of 100 if you get that many. And when I explained to the young lady, what would you tell them? And I repeated nothing more than what's already in the fucking scripts. But, you know, I'm not going like this. I mean, not only can you see and smell fear, but you can hear fear. And if you is trying to buy their business and you're going, and remember I told you in the first seminar, don't act like it's memorized. You know, the words come off your pearly lips like smooth.
Natural.
And that's why, exactly, that's the word, natural. And that's why you got to practice a lot. And now it's, you could, I'm in a coma, you could poke me up and wake me up and
True.
Oh, hi.
It's built in your DNA now.
Exactly. I just, because it's part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so, and so I get to these people and people that, you know, have done it a long time, like Andres now. Andres, when he was here 2-3 years ago, he says, I still make cold calls. And at that time, he'd done 28 deals. Now he's done 35 deals. And he says, but I still make cold calls. Today, you know, he maybe makes 5 a week. But he gets 2 to 3 of them. Of course, now he's in charge of whatever the name of our group is. I forget what the name of it is. And, you know, I told him you can use, you know, we have 315 million euros in business in your county. So, I mean, the more deals you do, the more leverage you have because, you get through first with your chairman and your board, okay? And everybody's going to presuppose that they signed off on you, which they may or not. Then the second thing you use is the accountants and the lawyers, KPMG or whoever the hell it is. And they'll think that they did due diligence. And by the time you get to the seller, you know, we've done $600 million in deals or euros or whatever it is. And we've done, 31 transactions or 310 transactions on the board. We have a world of experience. But then they don't expect you to stutter.
Right.
Yeah.
And the guy, now the Asperger kid in the front row that I was beating up yesterday or the day before, he's done this stuttering. Okay, you know, you've heard him talk already. He's polished now. But I mean, you can do it. I mean, he hates the calls because he feels inferior when he's talking to these people because he can't get the words out of his mouth. Fortunately, they're not seeing him because you see how he dances around when he talks and goes like this and that. Okay. And I've dealt with Asperger's and, ADHD kids. But they can get it done. But they really have to practice. I mean, so it comes out smooth. And the key to kids like that, and I've told many kids, because I have a son like that, is slow down your talk. You may think you're talking this slow, but you're really talking this. Okay, slow down your talk. But that's good advice for everybody in public speaking. Slow it down because it's not like, for those of you that have kids, kids don't listen much anyway, They've got their headset on and shit and fuck you. I can't even imagine. My kid brother and I were together for my dad's 106th birthday, if he was still alive, for a dinner not too long ago. And he says he can't imagine what would have happened if we had ever left the room when Dad was screaming at us or told him to fuck off. Or now the kids say, whatever. I don't know what whatever means, but it's kind of like fuck off.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's what it is.
I can't imagine. I'd be sitting in the cemetery someplace around here. But the kids today, and it's the parents' fault, and it's the parents' fault. Like this kid that's from the wealthy family. In fact, I told the Delaware guy, his family came over in 1604. They own fucking Delaware. He's a big fucking hitter. That's why I said I was surprised that he came back. Of all the guys to come back 5 weeks later, I was surprised. Because all the problems he's got like a mini Ford Foundation. Okay? And for him to come back, but he's serious, he wants to do it. He came to hear me in Pennsylvania, Penn, but that's 6 years ago. Okay?
At the Watron.
Pardon?
At the Watron?
Morton, yeah. And but he's got all the challenges that we talked about. He's got them times 10. Times 10. And I told him, he came up with the idea, fortunately, and I agreed. It's better for me just to leave and do it on my own. I said, absolutely. I was hoping you'd come up with that. Because it'll take him years.
With his family.
In court and shit, to fight his way. The good side is he's not going to starve to death in the meantime.
Yeah.
He's not going to starve to death in the meantime. So he doesn't have to worry about
Mr. Peña,
he doesn't have to worry about the butler putting the food on the table.
right.
I have a couple of questions. When we are discussing this, it's like, shall we offer 3x or 5x? And I'm not 100% sure, but
3x.
Yes, I think you recommended, but I'm not sure, to read the book Never Split the Difference. Can it
No, that's not my book. No, that's old time. That's old time negotiating. But no, you're off. Now, just remember, even if they're using a broker, I come to a broker and I want $3 million for my business. He's going to ask $5 million.